or we say it or do it while we're saying it and doing it, and after we've said it and done it. He said in that, and if at any time in those three circumstances we find that there's some incongruency in our original intention, we should stop right there. So for those of you who were here on Tuesday, as I was giving this wonderful talk, I just stopped. I could not give it because I found some, as I reflected, on my own intentions, I found some resentment there. To continue with the talk would not have been authentic for me, and it would have been brutal for you. This is the way that we have to practice. And the purpose of a Sangha is for us to be able to practice this. Because it's in this way that we wake up. It's in this way that we find our true strength. It's in this way that we become authentic and we become overcomers of the vicissitudes of life. It's in this way that we come up to the fullness of the measure of the stature of one who is awake and who has abandoned their own personal sense of self and become part of the whole. This is our practice. And if we didn't have spaces where we had people that we found trustworthy that allow us to practice in this way, we would never awaken. And that's why a Sangha and a dwelling place for a Sangha is so critical. It's so important. Mindfulness is great, but mindfulness never stands alone. It's always attached to something. It's a matter of what you will attach mindfulness to. And the Buddha says we must attach mindfulness to the very highest qualities of being that display our essence of what it means to be a human being. And if we don't do that, we haven't done anything except figured out how to support ourselves and how to be happy with our things. So I would like to give this talk again, because for the past 2 days, I've been working on myself so that I could give this talk, because that's the whole purpose for my being, for my life. Everything else has already been abandoned. The things that we consider the pride of life. Careers, making money, having personal relationships like wives, husbands, and children. All of these things, having homes and cars, and all of these things already abandoned. There's nothing left for me but to make life meaningful through the teachings of the Dharma. That's it. I hope you're coming back. Excuse me. I hope you're coming back. Yes. I would like for you to stay for this talk.
I feel like staying and turning against my own heart.
You feel like what?
I feel if I stay, I'm turning against the feeling in my own heart.
Well, then you're going to have to decide whether this is a place where you can stay. A moment is fine. I hope you come back before the end of this talk. He said these two people are hard to find in this world. Which two? excuse me for 1 second. I want to say that she has a very, very tender heart, but we can't let a tender heart turn us away from the reality of things. To develop the strength to deal with what is real in our life, we have to stay. And we have to pass through it. This is not a spiritual bypass. Okay. These two people are hard to find in the world. Which two? The one who is first to do a kindness and the one who is grateful and thankful for a kindness done. So he's advising us to treasure people like this when we can find them. And more importantly, to show how we can become such rare persons ourselves. Kindness and gratitude are virtues that must be cultivated, but they have to be cultivated together. And each needs the other one to be genuine. A point that becomes obvious when you really think about the things most likely to make gratitude heartfelt. I mean, not just words, but I mean really feeling it in your heart. What inspires or what brings up a sense of gratitude for you. The first one is that you actually benefit from something that has been offered. So from the other person's actions, you feel that they have actually offered something to you that you needed. The second is that you trust the motive behind that action. That is that it's directly related to your need and not the need of the person who's doing it. Sometimes people do things, but they're doing it out of their own need. They need to be appreciated. They need to be loved. They need to be seen. They need, and you can tell the difference when someone is offering you something truly as a benefit for you versus when they're fulfilling their own need. And the third is that you sense that the other person really had to go out of their way, had to give up something, had to do something extraordinary or extreme to provide that benefit to you. Points 1 and 2, you've actually benefited and you trust the motive, are the two lessons that gratitude teaches kindness. If you want to be genuinely kind, it means that you have to actually be of benefit. Nobody wants to be the recipient of help that isn't really helpful, number one. And you have to provide that benefit in such a way that it shows respect and empathy for the other person's needs. No one likes to receive a gift given with calculating motives or in a disrespectful way. Point number 3 is a lesson that kindness teaches gratitude. Only if you've been kind to another person will you accept the idea that other people can be kind to you. If you haven't, you cannot connect with the kindness that others offer. It's only when you've been kind to another that you can connect with the kindness that others offer. And at the same time, if you've been kind to another person, you know the effort that's involved. You know what it takes. You know the sacrifice that is made, even though you're doing what you're doing for yourself or because you want to do it. You're doing what you're doing on its own merit, whether it's appreciated or not. You're doing it because you've chosen to do it, but yet you know the effort that it takes to do it. But human beings, unenlightened ones, to them kind impulses sometimes have to do battle with unkind impulses in the heart. Especially when it involves great sacrifice. A sacrifice possible only when you trust the recipients to make good use of what you offer. So when you're on the receiving end of a sacrifice like that, you realize that you have incurred a debt, an obligation to repay the other person's kindness. I have incurred a debt to the Buddha for the kindness of his teachings. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I understand it. And I repay that debt in how well I pull myself up to the teachings that I embrace as true, even when I don't feel like it. So on Tuesday, when I felt resentment arising in me, it required that I was true to the teachings and respected the teaching for what it was. And I just had to fit myself into it. And when I found myself lacking, I abandoned the teaching. It was easy for me to do because I understand the way leading upward. I understand the way of advancement. And I understand what it takes to crush the ego. And I'm willing to crush the ego, to be free. The only thing that binds us is our own ego. So the Buddha said that gratitude is a special kind of appreciation that inspires and requires a specific response. It's like fruit that doesn't fall far from the tree, or a seed that produces fruit after its own kind. I said to Pannavati this morning, I said, Pannavati, I must not be a good teacher, and I must not set a good example, because when I look at the fruit, it's far from the tree. He said, Pannavati, maybe it's you're not considering everything. People are responsible for what they do the same way you're responsible for what you do. I said, yes, well then maybe I need to reconsider some things that are deep in my heart regarding lessons I learned previously. And maybe it's time to rearrange or restructure or place them within a different context. For instance, when you were 2 years old, your parent lets you go on the porch, but you can't go down the steps and into the yard. When you're 5, you can go in the yard, but you can't go outside the gate. When you're 9, you can go outside the gate, but you got to stay on this side of the street. When you're 12, you can go across the street, but you can't go around the corner. When you're 14, you can go around the corner, but not out of the neighborhood. When you're 16, you can go out of the neighborhood. And when you're 18, you can even leave the state if you want. So there are restrictions placed according to your development. So I said that what's in me to a full degree is those who are strong should be able to bear the infirmities of the weak. That's how I govern my life. That is my standard. If you're strong, then bear through the infirmities of those who are not as strong. I embrace the notion that to whom much is given, much is required. I feel like I have been given much in terms of forgiveness, in terms of favor, in terms of grace, in terms of understanding. And so I'm required to tolerate those who don't have as much understanding. And so I went through my tick list of what has helped me to develop fortitude, expanded vision, confidence, the ability to go against the odds, to stand even if it means standing alone, to overlook a slight, to tolerate a fault, to hold my peace when others falsely accuse me, whatever it takes. It are those principles that I live by. He said, yes, but those are not all the principles that you need. And so in his talk with me, he helped me to lift a weight. That's what good friends in the Dharma do. But one can only receive that to the degree, in direct proportion to the degree of respect and appreciation they have for the giver of that. The Buddha said, so if this is what you think of me, and he quoted what they said they thought of him, the Blessed One, seeking our well-being, teaches the Dharma, sometimes harshly, sometimes gently, sometimes both gently and harshly, but always out of sympathy for us. He said, if this is what you think of me, then you should train yourselves. So he's saying that only we can train ourselves harmoniously, cordially, and without dispute in the qualities that I have pointed out to you, having known them directly. In other words, the way to repay a teacher's compassion and sympathy in teaching us is that we apply ourselves to learning our lessons well and living them before others. And these are some of the lessons about kindness and empathy that gratitude teaches us. The first lesson is that the sense that you've benefited from another person's actions underscores the point that action does produce results. The importance you give to the other person's motives in helping you underscores the point that the quality of the action lies in the intention behind it. And the sense that the action isn't totally determined is that there is a correlating response. That is, one feels indebted to the one who is offered something, because you sense how easily they might have denied giving that help. They may have chosen another path that didn't include their personal denial for anyone else's benefit, and how difficult our lives might have been if that was what they had chosen to do. So these 3 points, show the efficacy of our actions, the importance of our intentions, and the existence of choice that are distinct elements in the Buddha's teachings on right action. So to advance, we have to really understand what right action is. It's not just a matter of doing what we think is right, but there is a standard, there is a quality for evaluating right action. Not just what feels good to me. Give what feels good to you. Do what feels good. It's more than just that. It's finding a standard for our actions and then growing into that. In addition, gratitude gives practice in developing qualities needed in our meditation. As the Buddha said, the practice of concentration centers on the power of perception. If you perceive help as demeaning, then gratitude becomes unnecessary. Or it may even feel demeaning to you. But if you perceive help and those that give help as an expression of kindness and trust and effort, then gratitude is ennobling. It is an aid to one's self-esteem. And if you perceive life as a competition, then it's hard to trust the motives of others. And you resent even a notion that there is a need to repay others for their kindness and for their effort. And instead we use that platform for personal griping when we are having an opportunity to offer an equal exchange. By the same token, gratitude requires mindfulness. In the Buddha's original sense of the word mindful, as keeping something in mind, we've made it now something else. There's an official definition of it that has to do with awareness in the present moment and all of that. But it was just simply keeping something in mind. And he talked to us about what we need to keep in mind to make this present moment authentic and edifying, meaningful. The Pali word for gratitude is katanyu, and it literally means to have a sense of what has been done on my behalf, what has been done on your behalf, what has been offered for another. In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha defines mindfulness as remembering and able to recall to mind even those edifying things that have been done and said. Now that's how the Buddha defined mindfulness. He said that the example of our behavior and freedom of mind is our gift to others, because it shows how others too may free themselves from the debts of the goodness that has been shown to them by others. And he said that only those who have attained full awakening have paid their debt in full. He said that attaining full release is the highest expression of kindness and gratitude. And he said, and it's a rare person who will take this route to freedom. He said it's a rare person who understands that this is the happiness that we are seeking. He said it is an opportunity to become rare and distinctive, but yet it is open to anyone with discernment to appreciate it and determination to become truly kind and debt-free. We should consider what we offer to others for their kindness to us. We should consider what we whisper about them. We should give our all, not our least, in gratitude. Only in this way will we become truly free. Thank you for hearing me today. Are there any questions? Are there any comments?
I just want to apologize to all of you for that moment. My heart was hurting so badly, I needed a moment, and I felt like if I didn't do that, I'd reckon with myself later. And that's something I'm trying not to do so much of. And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to come back, because pride wouldn't have allowed me to come back if you hadn't offered the invitation.
Thank you.
So thank you.
After you went out, I explained that you have a very tender and open heart. And it takes time when one has that kind of heart. Maureen has the same kind. It takes time when one has that kind of heart to be able to have the fortitude to sit in tough circumstances and hear straight talk, because they always want everything to be, so soft and gentle and peaceful and harmonious. And actually, this is harmony to me, when we are willing and able to face what is simply the truth. We can get better when we can not be afraid of the truth. When we can know that our slip is hanging and it's not so bad that I can have to leave that place and never be seen again, but we can just pull up our slip and keep going. Because that's what I had to do. Do you think it was easy to come back in today? Pannavati offered me a way out. He said, I'll give the Dharma talk today for you if you want. I said, no. I need to face this myself. And I told him I didn't know if I'd be able to on Thursday. I wouldn't if there was still resentment in my heart. I couldn't if there was still resentment for anyone. And at about 10 o'clock, he said, how you doing? And I said, I'm almost there. He said, okay, you keep working at it. And by 11:30, I hollered through the house, Pannavati, I'm okay. Because I was in a terrible, she knows she came to see me. She knows she came to see me. I was in terrible shape, and it had nothing to do, this is what I'm saying to you, it had nothing to do with anyone else or what anyone else does. It had totally to do with where I was within my own assessment of what I consider my personal noblest and highest qualities of being in the face of anything. And so the only work I needed was to work on myself. I don't need an explanation from anybody. I don't need an apology from anybody. I don't need anybody to come and say I'm a wretch undone. I don't want anybody. I don't need any of that. All I needed was to work on Pannavati. And that's what I'm saying to you. I said, Pannavati, maybe the example of my failure to measure up to my own standard and to just get up and say so and leave the building was better than giving the Dharma talk that was not going to be authentic. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for doing the hard work on yourself for us. We appreciate you so much. I'm so glad that you're able to come back here today and do for us what you do for us. Thank you so much.
I just have to say, I'm so grateful that you're not that guru so far ahead of me that I can't see the footsteps. Thank you again. Yeah.
I might be stepping on your heels. Jim. And then I saw a hand over here.
If you'd like to share what your process is for working on yourself.
Yes. I felt into the feeling, and there was a lot of pain there. And I had to acknowledge that that pain was the result of how I chose to view and see the things that I was looking at. In other words, we don't really see the world as we are. We see it as we are. We don't see a situation as it actually is, impersonal. It's just what's happening. We see it or feel it as we are. And so I just sat here with that. Nobody's fault but mine. People are just being people. People just do what people do. You know, they just do what they do the same way I just do what I do. And in this way, I begin to release, set a match to my my tick list of offenses, until I was left not being offended by anyone. Just accepting people where they are, including myself, my own insufficiencies, And in this way, the internal pain begin to just lift and disperse, and it allows you to get up and go again. It allows you to walk and not be weary. It allows you to run and not faint. That's it. To know the Dharma is to know oneself. To know oneself is to know the 10,000 things.
I just wanted to say thank you for being vulnerable like we all are. So there isn't that you're sitting up there and we're here. We're all experiencing the same thing. So I thank you for that.
Thank you. And that's true. For me, it might have been around a particular issue. For another person, it could be something else, something really, equally beneficial, like a caregiver who's weary. Because the one that they're giving care to constantly curses them out, shows nothing but disrespect in their own pain. Could pick your poison. You could just drop anything in there. That's why the teaching's there for all of us. If I ever get enlightened, I'll let you know. But between now and then, we have to keep looking to the teaching and be careful about what we toss out in our newfound religion of intelligence in the West, that we cannot use these simple teachings to put down our pride and ego and try something else. I could have stood with, these are well-founded grievances, but that wouldn't make me feel any better. Because I can't make anybody do anything. Nor should I even be interested. I want to be a free person. I want to be free to follow, what I consider my own heart and my own path. And sometimes it'll segue into yours, and sometimes it'll vector off. Yet and still, I'm going to reserve my right to be free. So how can I offer you any less than that? And when we can be this way, we'll be able to come and speak truthfully to one another. Whether it's something that edifies and builds us up, or whether we have to say, you need to look at that. We'll be able to accept either one. And we can say, thank you for sharing with me. I'll consider that. We'll stop saying when someone comes and says that we have offended them, well, if I have offended, they just told you that you did. So we'll drop the if I have offended you. I'm sorry. We'll just say, I'm sorry for offending you. And then just go home and think about that. See how we might say it the next time in a better way, or maybe not say it at all. No. This is our path to growth and our path to awakening. And I'll tell you, it may not always feel like fun, but it is good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end. I appreciate the Sangha, I really do. And I appreciate the residents of Heartwood. I appreciate, I can look to each person in this room and point to your path of progress, and it's different for every person in the room. There's no one standard by which we assess everybody, but each one of us has our own journey, and that Panyadeepa and I understand. And so what may be allowable for one is not allowable for another. This notion that we have of equality and everything being equal, and even our notions of justice, may not be exactly what we think. And we have to be able to have more discernment than that. That will stop a lot of the how come questions. And whatever benefit is offered to one, there will be gladness around it for all. Thank you for coming today. May you be well and happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you, no danger. May you always be able to meet the inevitable difficulties of life.